About 4 years ago, we moved to our dream home in the middle of farms and woods. We have 8 acres, which backs up against some protected land that is undeveloped. Mostly old farms and woods patched through them. We are between Oxford, Ohio, and from what I recently read, the fabled Germantown, Ohio. We keep to ourselves, my wife and son and our dog. I've only met our nearest neighbor, a late 20s and early 30s female. I never see her leave. Her dad stops by from time to time. She doesn't work. One night, a few years ago, I went outside around 12:30 a.m. to walk the dog. I had a few beers on a Saturday night, as did my neighbor, most likely. She was hooting and howling, so I joined in the fun and howled back. No biggie. But this play started happening more and more. We started having weird stuff happen. Someone snapped our rooster's neck in the night and was coming on our property. So I set up trail cams. It didn't catch much, but some deer and coyotes. Bit one day, I went to check the cameras, and my SD card was missing, and the camera open. So I gave up on that idea. I'm a bit of a prepper. Okay, I'm a big prepper. So I turned the next few weekends into a full-on military operation to figure out who or what was coming onto our property. I got camoed up in a sniper ghillie suit and night vision. Had my night vision scope rifle out. Nothing. So, one night, it's Saturday again. Had a few beers, but not close to drunk by any means. Took the dog out when I heard the playful howl again. I thought it was my wife in the chicken coop, so I kept walking that direction. Nobody there. Huh. Weird. Must be the neighbor. So we got to the opening, to the 300-yard spread of brush and woods between our houses, and I saw what looked to be a naked person with long hair, kind of like a lion's and less hair on the body, but still a light dusting of body hair. It ran off upright. I didn't see a snout or anything like that. No fangs or glowing eyes. But I did get a weird feeling, like it was a big dog, wanting me to chase it. An overwhelming vibe, so to speak. It ran through the tall brush, and I lost sight. The initial contact was about 120 yards out, and it ran the other 150 to 180 yards quick. My dog didn't even seem to care. Sort of like it was a dog it knew. Not exactly sure what it was, but it did not seem evil or dangerous. My daughter is 30, and back in October or early November of 2020, she was about 3 blocks from home, driving down St. Anthony's Church Road at roughly 8:30 p.m. This road is rural and very dark, except for the light on at a cemetery that you pass. That's when she noticed something darker than a shadow and huge go across that whole cemetery in a matter of seconds. This scared her enough to call me as soon as she got home to tell me that how this was so upsetting to her and she was now sick to her stomach. She was bothered by this and experienced nightmares, and her and I were surprised at how this had shaken her up so much. She still at the time never heard of Dogman. So, a couple of days later, she was walking down across the road to the mailbox and a small creek with a wooded area on both sides across from where she walks, and she said that something or someone was watching her. When she walked, it walked. When she stopped, it stopped. And she experienced the same feeling in the stomach when she sees nothing or no one in the wooded area, since she's looking right through the wooded area because it's not thick as it was in the summer. She said that she could not hear anything, no nothing, and it freaked her out really badly, since nothing like that has ever happened to her before. except for riding past in the cemetery a few nights prior. Anyway, she hurried up and went back to her house and called and told me that she's being stalked by something that's gotta be paranormal or invisible. That's when I told her that it could be a Dogman. First off, this happened about 3 years ago. I was asked to put my encounter on this forum. I live in rural Tennessee, farmland, small town USA. So one night, early in the fall, my friend called me and wanted help with a newborn calf. I told him sure, jumped on my dirt bike and headed over there. When I got there, he had done delivered the calf, but the calf-skin mother was freaking out, mooing a weird kind of sound. My friend said he was going to lock her in the barn. Would I stay with the calf? So I did. He was gone not even 3 minutes, when I caught a nasty wet dog dead animal smell coming from my right. It was putrid. I thought a great dead deer was rotting nearby when I heard some branches breaking about 40 feet off to my right. I thought, great. Now a bobcat or some dog was going to be eating the rotting deer and make the smell even worse. But to my surprise, the smell moved. So I'm like, okay, smells don't move. So I shined my light in the area and caught a glimpse of something black. It was a blur moving so fast. I thought a bear, but I've never seen a bear in these woods before. Just then, I heard something to my left, and I turned towards the sound, shining my light in front of me, about 20 feet, and what I can only describe as a werewolf-like thing, right out of a horror movie. It was standing on 2 legs, glaring at me. My mind was thinking that this is not real. It can't be. But there it was, 7 foot tall easily. I'm 6'4", 280 pounds, no small guy. But this thing made me look small. It was sniffing the air, and it showed a mouth full of teeth. Then I heard a branch break from my right. I turned, and there was another one, but smaller, about 6 feet tall, standing on 2 legs. So I positioned myself so I could see both creatures, when the bigger one freaked me out even more. It took its arm and pointed with the huge clawed hands at me. I was truly terrified, and remembered the newborn calf still hiding in the grass. So I reached down and pushed the newborn between my legs. The larger creature looked at me, shook its head, like to say, no, don't do that. Just then, I remembered that I had my father's World War II Colt 45 that he had passed down to me. I pointed that at the larger creature, thinking I'm going to get one shot and die, but I was going out fighting. Just then, the larger creature made a weird clicking noise. It hurt my head, made my eyes water, and to my relief, the larger one went down on all fours and took off with the smaller one beside him. Like I said, it's been 3, almost 4 years since my encounter. I never told anyone. I mean, who would believe you that you saw a real werewolf? I mean, you hear about Bigfoot, but werewolves anyway. You can believe me or not. I truly don't care. I know for a fact what I saw. I lived in an apartment complex when I was in high school, and loved to hunt there. It was only 6 feet away from the parking lot. I almost lived in those woods. They had beautiful oak trees there with trails under them. So one day, I was hunting with my bow in a cow pasture, which had a barbed wire fence separating it from these woods. I had shot a rabbit there just a few days earlier with a razor blade arrow. I was walking down the fence line in the pasture, heading towards the corner where the fence went off to the left, towards the apartments. That's when I heard something large in the woods, coming straight towards me. crashing through the brush, actually. It sounded bipedal. It made me really curious because it was very thick woods and hard to walk through. Besides that, no one ever went in this part of the woods except for me. These were like my woods. I called out, "Who are you? What are you doing here?" No answer. I repeated it. Still no answer. Yet they just kept coming closer. They got about 25 feet from me. It made me mad. So I almost jumped over the fence and ran over there to see who was only 25 feet away from me and did not want to answer. But then I remembered that I'd seen a man in his 40s with a long-barreled revolver on his hip across the creek, coming from an area that had an abandoned barn, and that area always gave me the creeps. I just never went over there. So, I caught myself right before I jumped over the fence and said, "No, something does not seem to be right here." By this time, I was at the corner of the fence line. I turned left and continued to follow the fence line towards my apartment. Then, I heard bipedal steps of this, what I thought was a person, because 40 years ago, we did not believe in Bigfoot or anything like that. I stopped walking, and it stopped. So I started walking again, and it also started walking alongside of me, about 25 feet. The woods were very thick in Louisiana, so you could not see through them. As I walked, I made sure that my razor blade arrow was well notched, and never took my eyes off who was walking parallel from me. And then it came to a part of the woods that I could never get through, because there was a different type of bush there, about 5 to 6 feet tall, and they were very, very sharp. Once, I shot a bird there, tried everything I could to get in there to get my bird, and could not crawl under it or over it. I was not afraid to go through the brush. I had scratched my left eye twice and had to get the top layer of skin removed by an eye doctor from going through the brush in those woods. This thing started crashing through this brush. As I began to walk very fast, then I just saw for a split second a very, very tall black figure crashing through. It was solid black, maybe 8 to 10 feet tall. It had to have been huge to step over the top of these 5 to 6 foot tall bushes. I could see from about the chest up. It had its arms in the air and out in front of it, and its torso leaned forward, but did not see any clothing. I thought that was weird. That's when it hit me, that it was not a man, but it was something else. I had no idea what it was. All I saw was like a black silhouette type figure. I took off running, and it did also, paralleling me all the way to the parking lot. When it reached a large tree right there, next to the parking lot, it sounded like it started smashing and snapping large tree limbs from the tree, like maybe 4 to 6 inches in diameter. I jumped the fence, running into my apartment, which was facing the woods, about 75 feet away. I never got the impression that it was a Bigfoot. I thought it was something paranormal, but did not have a clue to what it was, since we didn't have internet back then. For years, I thought about why this creature decided to do this to me. The only thing I could think of was that I shot that rabbit a few days earlier, and immediately cut it open to clean it in the pasture. But as I began to skin it, I saw that it had worms under the skin, so I left it there. These woods were not very large, only about a quarter mile by a half a mile long, and in an urban setting. So I said to myself, no way it could be a Bigfoot. But what was it? So I did not shoot anything. I don't eat. And do not even try to break the smallest twig when I'm in the woods, no matter how thick they are, or smash down any grass or make a trail. And when I pee, if it's possible, I dig a small hole and then cover it up. If I have somebody with me, I ask that they whisper, and feel like we should respect our woods and the animals, of course, and all the paranormal creatures that live in it. What do you think it is that I saw?